Bye-bye, Udrat.
All right, now let's take you live to East London, where the ANC is addressing the media of the sidelines of the 9th Provincial Elective Conference. Let's take you there now.
That we have paid regard and much attention to all the disputes. The 54th National Conference of the ANC, held in Nazareth, established a structure called the National Dispute Resolution Committee, which we never had before, to make sure that there are sufficient platforms within organization to attend to matters of concern or disputes that could be there. Even in this conference, members of the NDRC are also on site, so that if there are issues that need further cleaning or further resolution, such matters could be attended to. We take the work of the African National Congress quite seriously. It is not possible that a 3-day conference of the ANC will be able to deal with all the issues. By the time you come to conference, you would have gone to your regional conferences, you will have really embarked on a process of engaging even on policy matters. The expectation that when we get here, by the time we finish conference, we must emerge with an economic charter of the Eastern Cape. It's not possible. You can't do it in 3 days. You have got various platforms in the organization, whether it's general councils, your own BGMs that have got to discuss and ultimately select who become delegates to these conferences, would have done quite a lot of work prior to also make sure that programs of the ANC that they emerge with are also customized, fit for purpose, to be able to address the plight in their own communities. And we're quite happy with that. We don't come to conferences only to vote. There's a build-up towards conferences. I've clarified the adoption of credentials. We need to be thorough. The ANC can't put itself under pressure to adopt credentials only to come and make sound bites to the media. Because then when it does that, it loses that rigorness that it requires to be able to drive its own processes forward. We're a self-respecting organization. We pay serious attention on matters that are brought to us. So we're quite confident and happy with the processes, the way they've been unfolding. We are hopeful that by the time we conclude, there will be a leadership of the Eastern Cape and it will do what they are expected to do. Court proceedings. Well, you would know that there was a court order yesterday that really allowed us to proceed in the manner that we are now doing as it related to delegates of Rubusana. So that work is being done, but the Credentials Committee that sits also takes stock of all of those things and make sure that it does what courts would have said needed to be done. Our role as the National Executive Committee is to be here and protect the credibility and integrity of conference. We've got that duty. So we have to make sure that by the time conference rises, it has concluded on what it was convened to do. So we've got a duty, and yourselves in the media, you also need to help us a bit, making sure that a narrative we drive out there is not one that always suggests that there could be a crisis, even when there's no crisis. Because you are very important. People from far afield really rely on yourselves to pick up on what is happening in these conferences. But if messages tend to go out there suggesting a possible crisis, people who believe in the ANC start to panic. So let's just help each other, make sure that the narrative we place out there is one that consolidates the confidence of our people. That's why we're here. We are here to make sure conference doesn't collapse. And we can assure every delegate of the more than 1,800 delegates, including non-voting delegates, that when this is their home, they must feel protected. They are safe. Because this is a festival of ideas, if you look at it. So the democratic space created by conference is one that must allow members of the ANC to be able to express themselves, but to also agree on a program that the leadership that is coming in is going to have to champion. So we are here and will make sure that conference does what it was convened to do. That clarifies your issue. Is there another issue that...
You call it a festival of ideas, but not a single idea has come through because you've not gone to commissions. You've essentially been stuck on credentials. Wait, Mr. Mark. Which means essentially if a conference is still on for 3 days without credentials being adopted, there's a threat of a collapse day. It happened in the youth league just this week in Limpopo. It collapsed last night.
Well, a conference is a festival of ideas because ideas generated and to be expressed at conference do not only come about on the eve of conference sitting. I mean, we have already developed policy discussion documents. We've had the NEC reflecting on that. Provinces have played a role in inputting on that process of policy documents. Now, this conference, the bigger part of a conference like this is the elective part. So that's why we call them elective conferences. Now, the people who must participate in that election in a conference should be duly verified delegates who will have emerged from branch general meetings or BBGM, biannual general meetings, which would have been given this specific mandate to produce delegates to conference. But in those meetings, some discussions are also held on policy documents. Because a 3-day conference, while it's a festival of ideas, it's not gonna really start discussing policy matters endlessly. When they emerge and rise out of conference, they adopt something called a conference declaration. And that declaration really begins to speak to areas that they must pay attention on, that the leadership needs to focus itself on. Let's say they conclude conference and they have not entirely dealt with the full business of conference. The incoming leadership can, out of its own volition, convene a provincial general council. That is provided for in the constitution of the African National Congress. So there is no challenge at all. By the way, conferences of the ANC are not starter packs of the organization itself. The organization has been existing since 1912. So we don't come to a conference because tomorrow I sure ANC Ipela. So the life of the ANC is beyond conference. So ANC in conference. A conference they will still be the African National Congress. That is the expectation. So you are here with us. If there are updates we need to give to the media, we will do so from time to time. But we can assure you that the conference is proceeding. Well, I was not aware of the issues of Limpopo. I'm sure the NYTT will come and brief us through the SGO on what would have transpired. So I'm not at liberty to really enter that space without getting much reports. Otherwise, we'll become creative. And it's dangerous to be creative. So we need to get facts and then clarify these issues based on facts.
Can you just give us a roadmap now going forward with the plenary now back in session? When are we going back in? When is your president coming to close?
Well, we'll brief you because the credentials committee was sitting. One just needs to really get closer to that process and then look at the program. And because, I mean, we have created this space for yourselves, so we'll come back here and update the media on the program. At what point do you come in, when it becomes open sessions? I'm sure you even gave them coffee. So it's quite, yeah, I mean, there's even a coffee station, so you guys don't need to feel cold. Okay. Do we still have more questions?
There were allegations that you were trying to rig this conference at I Pule House. In essence, trying to swing it in favor of certain individuals by frustrating the certain queries of certain individuals from the provincial task team. And some was alluded by saying that some may have a desire to leave the ANC at all costs and not follow due process. Is there any substance to the allegation?
Well, it's quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate that such statements would be made. Lutuli House does not get itself involved on who should emerge and lead in a province or in a region. That is why we unleash our full machinery of your National Dispute Resolution Committee, NEC, deployees, even reinforce where required, like getting ourselves to be able to make sure that media people get update from time to time. So it's quite unfortunate if those allegations were made. They are quite unfortunate, they are baseless, unfounded, dangerous, and divisive. We don't entertain that. Because the SGO, which deals with this, now under the stewardship of the Treasurer General, owing to the ill health of our DSG, whom we continue to wish well, does everything to make sure that it satisfies and meets the minimum requirements of our own guidelines. We don't do that. I mean, we have been in various other conferences. We don't get to those conferences and want to position ourselves as possible leaders. Members of the ANC, branches of the African National Congress, as they prepare for the 55th National Conference, will basically ensue with nomination processes, and they will decide on the leadership they want. They might decide that all of us who were elected at the 54th National Conference are no longer fit enough to take the ANC forward. It is their democratic choice if they do so. So there is no leader of the ANC who leads at a national level who will go and impose his will on structures or try to swindle, to use your word, or try to swindle things so that they could produce a certain outcome. We don't do that. We are a self-respecting organization. We too are self-respecting cadres of the movement. We understand that. When we are here in the Eastern Cape, we are not here to come and market ourselves or, produce some unknown ambitions so that no. If people think by December, if they say this leadership did not do enough, I am matad. 5 years, that's how things are done in the ANC. So these allegations, very unfounded, dangerous, divisive, well, to the extreme, they come across as naughty. It's naughtiness. How do you say something like that? How do you make allegations like that about the leadership? So now, if we say that, Reina, we don't believe in the integrity of our own processes, then what do we believe in? Remember, we pledge allegiance to process of the ANC. Every one of us, including the leadership of the Eastern Cape, has got a responsibility to protect and safeguard the integrity and credibility of ANC processes. Now, when such statements are being made, what they do is that they go against our own ability to protect the integrity and credibility of processes. The reason why delegates are here, Samgel, is because they have submitted themselves to internal process of the ANC. The very processes that they want to see produce some of them as leaders. It's very important, because without a process in the ANC, how do you produce leaders? Because leaders are produced through process. So it's very important that we have got that kind of a shared understanding on how matters are really ran here in the African National Congress.
Just in follow-up to what Sangele asked, the Christian region itself has, on the past, over 100 BBGMs. Only 37 managed to be verified. They had to rerun the rest over and over. And it was the first region that also made a complaint, that I'm aware of, that made a complaint that since the introduction of this new system, there seems to be some people manipulating the membership. There seems to be people that are registered using a closed FNB account, an account of a branch that was closed back in 2018. And recently, Dr. Oron Motswaledi sort of confirmed their concern in saying that indeed there were people in the office of the national organizer that were found to have been indeed responsible in manipulating the system, and that those people are now going to be going to a DC. So how can you say you are all perfect when we know that there are indeed such issues?
Okay, no thanks. I did not use the word perfect in any of my articulations. So it's quite important that if you want to make inference to statements we have made, you make them factually, so that we can really respond to your concerns. There are challenges, as in any other organization. An organization as big as the ANC will always have challenges that it needs to address. When those challenges come up, we've got a team of deployees who are deployed by National, led by Comrade Aaron Mutwaledi as the convener of deployees. They deal with all those concerns. They address them. So there's no issue. We don't have to get worried. When there were issues of Krizani, the team of deployees here addressed those issues.
But currently, Krizani has got, last I checked, they had about 16 branches that weren't participating. And their leadership is saying it's all the results of the issues they started raising from June, July last year. And first they were denied, but later when they came into fruition, they felt like they are being punished for issues they raised but were ignored at Luthuli House.
Well, I might not be fully aware of that, but I'm sure that the province, working together with deployees, will have addressed all of those issues. Are you from Krizani? You
Yes.
sound quite.
Yes, I'm from Krizani.
You sound quite involved with the issues. So no, it's fine.
It's not
Yeah, no.
personal.
I can figure it. Yeah, it comes out in the tone. It's a real issue. That's fine. We should be okay. We are going to now check the program, and then if there are any updates, we'll give members of the media. Thanks very much. We'll make sure that you are updated on.
Can I just get clarification? ANC deployee Standard Away yesterday told journalists that the Mobian is going to win. Does that tell us that Luthuli knows the winner?
I will. Stella Ndabeni is in the province. She's a delegate in this conference. If she has got a preference, it's her own preference. You can't really crucify a person for expressing themselves on their preference. I mean, we don't do that. It's conference. So everyone who's here as a delegate has got their own preferences. One by one. No, we can't do that. Man. Waman Mukhalabe. Inyaga ulebe lady NEC member. Twale reina maloba. 86. Rotomile gawa 6 badi official. Wata reina gwa 80. Awona stela gwa 80. So I cannot really kishe you. There are banna. Ka 5 years, let's be NEC members that were elected. Comrades, really? How was Kadia so bakhala? I was Stella gwa leader mo PTT yabona moai. So she's welcomed to express her views. I mean, this is a democratic space where people will express themselves on whatever preferences they may want. In the NEC, it's not our space. We can't come to a province and say to a winner. Okay. We are done. Okay. No, menangina challenge. Namanga buya. There's no crisis. Okay.
All right, we come out of that media briefing by I Pule Mabe from the ANC saying there that there is no crisis within the ANC's Eastern Cape 9th Elective Conference, responding to the recent court interdict, of course, and delays leading up to the conference and, of course, delays at the start of the conference because it hasn't essentially kicked off. He says they are happy with the process of the conference and calling it the Conference of Ideas, possibly moving away from the Festival of Chairs, I would imagine, of 2017. He says delegates will get to other matters after finalizing the adoption of credentials. As you know, top of the agenda for delegates today was the adoption of credentials, policy issues, and of course, election of the new provincial leadership. So far, the delegates have been discussing credentials since yesterday. President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to close the conference tomorrow. The conference was initially planned to end later this evening. All right, we'll bring you more stories when we return. Stay with us. You're watching SA Today.
At Stories Untold, we showcase